political globalization refers to the growth of the worldwide political system, both in size and complexity. That system includes national governments, their governmental and intergovernmental organizations, as well as government-independent elements of global civil society such as international non-governmental organizations and social movement organizations. One of the key aspects of the political globalization is the declining importance of the nation-state and the rise of other actors on the political scene. The creation and existence of the United Nations has been called one of the classic examples of political globalization. Political globalization is one of the three main dimensions of globalization commonly found in academic literature, with the two other being economic globalization and cultural globalization. William R. Thompson has defined it as the expansion of a global political system and its institutions, in which interregional transactions, including, but certainly not limited to trade, are managed. Valentine M. Moghadam defined it as an increasing trend toward multilateralism in which the United Nations plays a key role, toward an emerging transnational state apparatus, and toward the emergence of national and international non-governmental organizations that act as watchdogs over governments and have increased their activities and influence. Manfred B. Steger in turn wrote that it refers to the intensification and expansion of political interrelations across the globe. The longer definition by Colin Crouch goes as follows. Political globalization refers to the growing power of institutions of global governance such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Trade Organization, TOE.
So what is the importance of political globalization? Through political globalization, we can easily contact and talk to other countries. Leaders in the times of crisis are concerned. We are able to resolve the issues and help to spread the democracy through the use of globalization, which has helped the lower boundaries and borders as a result of war.
What are the political dimensions of globalization? The political dimension of globalization considers how these processes raise an important set of political issues pertaining to the principle of state sovereignty, the growing impact of intergovernmental organizations, and the future prospect and regional and global governance, global migration flows, and environmental policies affecting our Earth.
State, nation, and globalization. The objective of this lesson is for the learners to analyze the relationship among nations and states in the context of globalization. The state. A state is a political structure of an organized community which is internationally recognized as an independent state, have a population, common language, defined territory and a established government. The state is related to but is not synonymous to government and country. The state, in a broader sense, consists of the agreements of the individuals on how disputes are settled in the form of laws. The state is primarily an organization with legal purpose, which is to impose law and order to ensure the welfare and safety of its citizens. Since the state mainly focuses on the importance of law and order, public service to its citizens is one of the defining features of the state.
Examples of political globalization. Number 1. European Union. The European Union is a trade and treaty bloc comprising of 27 nation-states on the continent of Europe. It is the successor of several other political agreements established after World War II to help integrate the European continent after war. Number 2 is NATO, or the North American Treaty Organization, is another multinational political treaty established after World War II. Number 3 is Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative is a trade initiative established by China designed spread China's sphere of influence across Asia and the Middle East. Number 4, war games. Many allied nations engage in yearly war games in a bid to strengthen military ties and protect their interests. Number 5 is NAFTA or NAFTA was a flashpoint of anti-globalization sentiment in the 1990s because it was seen to decrease labor standards and would lead to the exodus of blue-collar jobs from the United States.
It is also embodied by the public officials, the members of the police and armed forces, the government officers and workers and others who have state functions. It is represented by symbols such as the flag, national anthem, national animal, and others. Elements of the state. As was stated on the first lesson, there are 4 elements that composes the state. Population refers to the people that compose the state. A state is a human political institution. There should be a population to begin with in order to have some rules and others to be ruled. Territory, the place where the people of the state are located or the place they inhabit, including the land, territorial waters, natural resources, and airspace located within it. This also refers to the geographic region of the state. Any interference with rights or ownership of one state to another may lead to conflict or war. Government is the institution that governs and enacts the will of the state. Sovereignty is the ability of the state to conduct its state functions and affairs without the interference of outside parties or forces. Sovereignty has 2 aspects. Internal sovereignty refers to the ability of the state to govern and control its people and territory. It has authority to enact laws and exercise power on its citizens and territory. External sovereignty refers to the freedom of the state from external influences and foreign interventions. That is why a state can enforce laws on their territory, without needing the approval of other states. Basically, this means that the state is independent of other states.
Hi everyone, I will answer the question, what does political, social, and economic means? Political is relating to the government or the public affairs of a country. It is also relating to the ideas or strategies of a particular party or groups in politics. Social is relating to the society or its organization. It needs companionship and therefore best suited to living in communities. Economics relating to the economics or economy. It justified in terms of profitability.
Sovereignty and legitimacy. The state's sovereignty is closely related to legitimacy. The state attains legitimacy if it is recognized and respected by the people. We can see this in the government's actions and the citizens' reaction to it. When majority of the population recognizes the government and subsumes under its laws, then the state is considered to be legitimate. However, when there is a huge portion of the population who oppose the government, then instability can ensue. There may come a time when this portion will move a power revolt against the government and assert their own independence. The state's legitimacy is also internationally recognized by other states or community of nations. This means that all states participating in regional and international relations are on equal footing when they relate to each other. A sovereign state should be able to freely pursue its goals and interests as well as uphold its objectives independently. Undue influence and intervention from other states cannot be forced onto a sovereign state. A sovereign state is considered a unified, coherent and organized entity that is able to exercise legitimate power for the welfare of its citizens. If the country experiences political upheavals such as civil war, power revolt, or if the government is considered illegitimate by the international community, the sovereignty of the state may be questioned by foreign states and this may affect its standing in international affairs. The state can also be classified according to the legitimacy of its exercise of power. A de jure state is one that has legitimacy but cannot exercise sovereignty. It is the legal, legitimate government, so recognized by other states but is withheld from exercising sovereignty due to various reasons. A de facto state on the other hand is a state that has no legitimacy but has sovereignty. For example, if a group overthrows the established government and forms their own government, they might have sovereignty and can exercise power over the people, but if other nations refuse to accept their existence, then they are considered a de facto state. A state can be a member of international organizations and institutions.
Why political stability is important to economy. Economic growth and the political stability are deeply interconnected. On the one hand, and are certainly associated with an unstable political environment may reduce investments and pace of economic development. On the other hand, poor economic performance may lead to government collapse and political unrest. An added benefit of political stability is its help that counter to attain a long-lasting development because the investors, taxpayers, bound to have a predictable economic policy to follow. Thank you.
Some example are the United Nations, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades, or the World Trade Organization. This also means that a sovereign state must abide by the laws, policies or regulations imposed by international agreements or conventions. For example, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which all the members of the UN in 1948 needs adopted, defines the standards on the recognition of human rights for all states. The Philippines, being a member and among those who ratified the declaration, is bound to abide and comply to the principles outlined by it. Nation. A nation refers to a large group of people who share common characteristics such as language, traditions and ethnicity, and also share a history and culture. This group can be identified as a nation even if they don't have a country of their own. Nations emerged as a social construct, primarily based on the concept of identity and ethnicity. According to the historian Benedict Anderson, nations can be thought of as imagined communities that see themselves as coherent and cohesive due to notions of unity. Nations often ignore political boundaries. For example, in the Philippines, many communities come together to form large ethno-linguistic groups such as Tagalog, Ilocano, Hiligay Noon, Visayan, Tausug, or Maranao. A Filipino usually identifies him or herself based on ethnicity and him or she feels a sense of belongingness to this group. Through long years of shared experience, thoughts, aspirations and struggles, we have now identified ourselves as a nation of Filipinos. If the state is the independent, sovereign government that governs its citizens within a defined territory, and nation is a group of people bound together by ethnicity, culture, traditions, language and other characteristics, what then is a nation-state? A nation-state is the idea of having a sovereign state with a homogeneous population of people who share the same ethnicity, history, traditions and culture. This is quite hard to attain. For example, in the Philippines itself, even though we think of ourselves as a nation of Filipinos, ethnic background is still quite strong. A person still feels strongly and deeply towards another person from the same ethnicity. However, it is not entirely impossible. A state may emerge from a nation.
Political impacts of globalization. Increase of middle class. Globalization increase and develop middle class by increase of urban institutions, party, national, and supranational groups and movements. Increase of middle class with various and vast demands is the social context of democracy. In other words, it signs non-growth of democracy.
Peace up, A-Town down. Yeah, yeah. Okay.